It's Matt, and today I'm going to be reading to you another nonsensical story that I wrote. This one is called Jason's Bad Day at Starbucks. I wrote this story with the intention of writing whatever came to mind as I was writing it, and as a result it's pretty silly and doesn't always make too much sense, but I think that's part of the fun, so I hope you'll enjoy it. If you have already heard my story, The Jolly Old Pretzel Chef, it was written in kind of the same way as that, so if you like that, you'll probably like this. Anyway, let's get started. The last rays of sunlight fell gently upon the expansive savannas of Kenya as Carlos the koala lounged peacefully in a hammock made of expired Twinkies. Carlos was a lawyer born in southern England, both famous for his prized recipe for steamed hams and infamous for his decade-long stint as the world's most successful ticket scalper. But today he had only one goal: to become friends with Tony the Tiger. You see, Tony the Tiger had, in this fine year of 4017, long been retired, having left the cereal advertising industry in favor of making cigars from emerald dust and the shells of disused alkaline batteries. This combination may sound quite toxic, but in reality it was quite the opposite. In the year 3045, all living organisms underwent a groundbreaking biological transformation as the result of a series of alien invasions. These aliens, who looked very much like translucent keyboards covered with spotty patches of fur, came to Earth not to conquer, but to heal. Using a combination of alien technology and supernatural energy, they altered the state of all matter so that every living organism on the planet could gain health benefits from ingesting quite literally anything. However, the first attempt to do this resulted in the inability of kangaroos to taste bananas, so they had to try it once more. But not all went according to plan. The second time, all kangaroos transformed into sentient bananas, armed with flamethrowers and an extreme amount of aggression towards paperclips, nearly causing the destruction of every paperclip in existence. The aliens, who admired the inventor of the paperclip more than any other historical figure in the universe, found this to be entirely unacceptable, and thus made a third attempt. And as they say, the third time's the charm. The aliens' plan was finally executed without any significant flaw, with the only noticeable side effect being the removal of all spots on Dalmatians. Fearing that a fourth attempt would result in a less insignificant problem, the aliens settled for this minor discrepancy, thus achieving their goal with sufficient satisfaction. Anyway, Tony the Tiger had just finished a world tour promoting the health benefits of his new emerald alkaline cigars. These benefits included increased strength, expanded mental capacity, and the ability to read the minds of koalas. And at this moment, Tony's koala senses were tingling. Sensing Carlos's intense desire to befriend him, Tony boarded his private jet and flew from Tokyo to Kenya, making sure to take the long way around the Earth. Tony loved many things, but he may have loved long flights more than anything else. Unbeknownst to most of the planet's population, Tony had a severe phobia of the ground that could only be suppressed by eating a strict diet of M&Ms and jalapeno peppers. And as much as Tony loved these foods, he rarely had the appetite for them after so many years without any variety. So, as you might expect, Tony took advantage of long flights, using them to binge on any and every food he could possibly crave. On this flight from Tokyo to Kenya, Tony chose to dine on 12,000 copper screws, 17 leather-bound notebooks, a reduced-fat ice cream cone, 4 pounds of feathers, and a bottle of magma. He was quite satisfied with his choices and arrived in Kenya feeling fabulously full and ready to befriend a koala. But he was too late. In the time it took Tony to travel a long way around the world, Carlos had fallen into a river and drowned while attempting to cross a sentient bridge. This sentient bridge, whose name was Fiona, laughed at his misfortune, then continued to harass a nearby flock of seagulls for having 3 too few feathers each. Fiona was known as the meanest living being in all of Kenya, and for several years after this incident would be suspected of purposely shape-shifting in order to murder Carlos. However, no one had ever fallen off this bridge before, nor would they in the future, and even if she wanted to, Fiona was only capable of producing sound, not moving in any significant way. Still, Fiona was forced to cooperate with Kenyan law enforcement for a number of years, and her popularity as a method of river crossing declined dramatically, never to return to its once lofty heights. No one pitied Fiona. But what about Fifi? Well, Fifi, Fiona's sister bridge, was located half a mile away and only continued to grow in popularity due in part to her remarkably kind nature, but mostly due to her celebrity status as the first YouTuber to surpass 1 million subscribers. For those listening, I'd just like to clarify, this was not the YouTube you may be familiar with. It was, in fact, an entirely different website, spelled Youtoob. This website was dedicated not to video sharing, but to the written word. By the year 2543, print media had been rendered entirely obsolete due to the perfection of e-ink technology, and after an Indian inventor named Kumar Anand decided he was fed up with YouTube due to his inability to find legitimate concert footage of his favorite underground sludge metal band without wading through 47,000 spam results, he took it upon himself to invent a competitor based on writing. Kumar believed that the potentially misleading nature of YouTube thumbnails was being exploited by spammers, and that by limiting all content to the written word, his website could avoid such exploitation. He was entirely wrong, of course, but was able to convince the masses of his beliefs with great ease and with the slogan, "What you read is what you get." In less than a month, the new YouTube was overrun with spam and misleading content, but Kumar was more than satisfied with the platform's popularity and decided to leave the site up indefinitely. Anyway, Fifi was the first YouTuber to reach 1 million subscribers thanks to her mastery of pan fiction, a budding new genre of literature dedicated to exploring the secret lives of frying pans. Tony the Tiger was actually a massive fan of hers, and after grieving for the death of his would-be koala fan, decided to pay a visit to the world-famous bridge. However, he mixed up their addresses and ended up visiting Fiona instead. Fiona, a jester to the core, sensed Tony's grieving and greeted him with the following words. "What's the best ad slogan for a dead koala? They're late." But Tony was not having it. In a fit of rage, he took out his magic wand and cast a curse upon Fiona, rendering her unable to ever speak again. Fiona was not disappointed, though. She simply decided in that moment that she'd probably done quite enough speaking anyway, and that maybe her life would improve if she could just keep her mouth shut. She came to change her mind on this within 13 seconds. Realizing that he'd mixed up the locations of the two sister bridges, Tony set off to meet Fifi, but it was quickly interrupted by his biggest fan, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The Rock, having achieved immortality in the year 2013, was practically bursting with excitement to see his childhood hero in the fur. He had spent 84% of his childhood eating nothing but Frosted Flakes, and was not about to let this opportunity slip out of his grasp. However, his excessive childhood intake of Frosted Flakes had altered his brain. Unbeknownst to him until this moment, a minuscule portion of his brain matter was made up of the same ingredients as Frosted Flakes, and Tony could smell it. Worth mentioning is the fact that Tony's anxiety-deterring diet of M&Ms and jalapenos could be rendered useless in the mere presence of Frosted Flakes, and as such he had made it his life's goal to never go near a bowl of them again. And as you can imagine, the Rock's approach caused Tony's crippling fear of the ground to come rushing back to him. He began jumping rapidly in a manner not unlike that of Tigger the Tiger, determined to spend as little time touching the ground as possible. The Rock was unfazed by this odd behavior, and came closer to greet Tony and shake his hand. The closer the Rock came to Tony, the faster he jumped. Eventually, as the Rock was in the middle of shaking Tony's hand, he reached a jumping pace so rapid that he began to drill into the ground with his feet like a giant fur-covered jackhammer. Getting closer to the ground with every hop, his pace only increased, and he was soon digging deep into the ground with remarkable efficiency. The Rock soon waved a jolly goodbye to Tony as he disappeared into the crust of the earth. Jason was having a great day working at Starbucks. He had just gotten a promotion, and the frequent customer he had a crush on had decided to proclaim her love for him. But Jason's great day at Starbucks was about to come to an end. Mere moments later, he vanished from reality along with the rest of the earth and its inhabitants. You see, Tony's uncontrollable digging eventually ended with him striking the Earth's core with such great force that the entire planet disintegrated in a slow but devastating explosion. Not all was lost, however. Much to Jason's surprise, the entirety of the life he thought he'd lived was only an elaborate dream. In reality, he was still 14 years old, still living with his uncle, and still grounded for attempting to bring a flux capacitor to school. Jason's master plan was to attach the flux capacitor to a toilet in the men's restroom, somehow get the entire school campus moving at 88 miles per hour, and take the whole place back to a time before the pop quiz he'd received a B+ on. This was an unacceptable grade to him. You see, Jason was under the impression that grades in school were a bit like scores in golf. In golf, lower numbers are preferable, so he always tried to get the lowest scores possible on every assignment. Prior to each exam, he would spend dozens of hours studying so that he would know exactly what not to answer each question with. But this pop quiz took him completely by surprise, causing him to accidentally get a B+. Fearing that the course of his life was irreversibly changed and that he was headed for failure, he purchased a flux capacitor off the dark web and prayed that the lessons he had learned from Back to the Future would come in handy. But they did not come in handy. That said, Jason's reality was not all that different from the one described earlier in this story. Aliens had actually altered the Earth. Tony the Tiger was actually selling cigars made from emeralds and alkaline batteries, and Carlos had actually met his unfortunate demise after drowning in a river. The only notable difference between reality and the world of Jason's dream was that Fiona was the nice bridge, and Fifi was the inconsiderate one. As a result, Tony visited the correct bridge from the get-go, entirely avoiding a fateful encounter with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and sparing the Earth from destruction. Meanwhile, in the afterlife, Carlos was having the time of his life, or perhaps death is the better word. Regardless of how you want to describe it, he was having more fun now than he'd ever had while alive. As it turns out, koala heaven exists and is objectively superior to all other forms of heaven for one reason. It has an above-ground pool. You see, in the afterlife, everybody wants to swim, but in the realm of the dead, there are almost no pools, lakes, oceans, or other bodies of water in which to swim. No natural bodies of water exist because they would present the opportunity to drown, conflicting with the one law of the afterlife. No being that has already died may die a second death. In addition, an unfortunate side effect of traveling from the corporeal realm to the spiritual realm is the loss of any memory of what a pool looks like or how to construct one. Thankfully, most other memories are retained in the process, but every living thing that has ever passed on to the afterlife has suffered this side effect, with the exception of a single koala named Juanita. Juanita was a koala famous in the world of the living for her magnificent pierogi recipe. She died peacefully of old age, and for reasons unknown, retained no memories whatsoever, except for how to construct an above-ground pool. Upon her arrival to koala heaven, she did the only thing she knew how to do, construct an above-ground pool. In mere seconds, all of koala heaven's inhabitants converged upon the pool, gazing upon it like one would gaze upon the face of God. Although the pool only has enough room for 4 koalas, it remains one of the most popular attractions in all of the afterlife. Many have tried to make pools of their own, but no koala has been able to figure out how to copy its design, and because Juanita lost all of her language-related knowledge upon entering the afterlife, she could neither describe how to build one, nor understand that the masses wished to learn anything from her. Regardless, Carlos was very happy, and would continue to be very happy for the rest of eternity, all because he had access to a pool. 3 days after Tony the Tiger visited Fiona, he flew to Antarctica to meet a Nigerian prince he'd been emailing for a few months. This prince was kind enough to promise a massive fortune to him before Tony had even typed a word. All he had to do was provide the prince with his full legal name, address, phone number, credit card number, bank account number, a custom limerick about the financial benefits of owning a eucalyptus tree, 7 selfies taken in front of the Eiffel Tower, a vlog about his daily morning routine, and a hedgehog carved from wood mailed via UPS. The prince was quite pleased with Tony's compliance in these requests, and had invited him to visit his Antarctic igloo so that he could give Tony the $12 trillion promised to him months before. Unfortunately, not all had gone according to plan. The prince was shocked to learn, mere minutes prior to Tony's arrival, that the supposedly wooden hedgehog given to him by Tony was a fraud. The hedgehog had slipped from his hands and fallen onto the floor of his igloo, shattering into several pieces and revealing a core made of dental floss. The prince was infuriated. "How dare you bequeath this unscrupulous sculpture to me?" inquired the prince upon Tony's arrival. "We had a deal, and you just had to cheap out on the hedgehog." "What do you mean?" asked the distraught Tony. "I swear I carved it by hand from the wood of a sawn-down oak tree." "Gaze upon its innards, Mr. Tiger. Do they look like oak to you?" the prince asked as he handed Tony a piece of the hedgehog. "Well, golly good gosh, that there's some doggone dental floss." This was the first and only time Tony would ever speak with a southern accent. "Correct, Mr. Tiger. Don't think that you or your cereal peddling skills can fool me. The deal is off." Tony left Antarctica without saying another word. He was incredibly upset and confused at the outcome of this seemingly foolproof deal, and absolutely sure that the hedgehog he'd given the prince was made of 100% oak. So then what happened exactly? Well, the truth was quite complicated, you see. When aliens finished transforming the biological makeup of the Earth in 3045, they were sure that the only lasting side effect was the removal of spots from all Dalmatians. However, there was one other side effect that they didn't notice. If any object is carved from solid oak and weighs exactly 514 grams for more than 7.5 hours, 36% of it will spontaneously be replaced with dental floss. This had not been an issue at any other point in time, but unfortunately, Tony's hedgehog sculpture weighed exactly 514 grams upon completion, resulting in the oak floss hybrid received by the Nigerian prince. Although Tony was very disappointed that he wasn't $12 trillion richer, he had no reason to worry about his long-term financial stability. When all was said and done, he still had over $79 octillion, more than enough to buy all the bubblegum he could ever want. 1 month later, the Easter Bunny took a drive from his Waverly, Nebraska home to the Rootstown, Ohio Cracker Barrel. This was an annual ritual for the Easter Bunny, who always ordered fried chicken with 2 sides of apple slices and a nice cold glass of iced tea. The date of their pilgrimage to this Cracker Barrel was always different, as it routinely occurred at the beginning of the Chinese Lunar New Year. This was not a purposeful decision by the Easter Bunny, but a complete coincidence, as their decision was always based on intuition. In reality, the Easter Bunny had no idea that China even existed. However, when they were only 17 minutes away from their destination, something entirely unexpected happened. The Rootstown, Ohio Cracker Barrel became sentient. Immensely uncomfortable with having several strangers inside of it, the Cracker Barrel uprooted itself from its foundation and began thrashing about wildly, sending every guest and employee flying far from the once-loved establishment. Upon vacating every living thing from inside it, the Cracker Barrel began marching toward Niagara Falls, hoping to take in the spectacular view. By the time the Easter Bunny arrived in Rootstown, the only remaining evidence that a Cracker Barrel ever existed there was a sign by the highway, which had toppled over during the recent chaos and broken open the fence of a nearby chicken coop. Thus began the chicken uprising. You see, Rootstown, Ohio was home to the headquarters of a secret society of feral chickens, completely fed up with the United States government. They had banded together with one purpose: to overthrow every existing political party and install a chicken president, ensuring the creation of a chicken utopia. And they were just a few chickens short of a proper militia until now. With the last necessary chickens freed from their coop near the Cracker Barrel's former home, the secret society of chickens began marching towards Washington, D.C. Clucking with fury, they soon approached the White House, beaks sharpened and wiffle ball bats in hand. But there was only one problem. The United States already had a chicken president. Unable to access the internet, watch television, or even understand any form of communication, the chickens had no idea that a chicken named Toad Man was elected president 3 years prior to their attempted coup. In reality, the United States already was a chicken utopia, but these feral chickens were completely unable to realize it. Upon breaking into the Oval Office, the chickens were pleasantly surprised to find that their dreams had already come true. Thousands and thousands of chickens beamed with joy, their positivity literally radiating from the capital of the United States and into the Earth's atmosphere. In fact, this positivity was so potent that the Earth was soon coated with a mystical avian energy, and just a few days later, the planet's inhabitants witnessed a number of miracles. Dalmatians once again had spots. Fifi the Bridge experienced a change of heart and became a positive role model in her community. The Cracker Barrel found a new home across from Niagara Falls and began welcoming guests once again. The Cracker Barrel's previous guests all recovered from the life-threatening injuries sustained after being violently thrown from it. Every koala in heaven discovered how to build an above-ground pool. Tony the Tiger's fear of the ground dissipated like dust in the wind. Carlos was reborn and later unreborn again after falling into another river. And perhaps most importantly, Jason's pop quiz grade was changed to an F. Basking in the glow of another glorious Kenyan sunset, Carlos's sister Carla took one last sip of her purple tea. It really is a wonderful life, Carla thought to herself as she lowered her 10-gallon hat, leaned back, and dozed off for another warm night of sleep. The end. I do hope you enjoyed that, as strange as it was, and I hope you're feeling a bit more relaxed or sleepy. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon with another video.